another episode of With the Chiefs.
Wait. Man, I need more rest.
I hope I've got your last name right there.
It's a very good pronunciation.
You should know better than that now, Donald.
I know.
Yes! Go Chris! Yes mate, almost there! Let's go!
All right. Welcome back to another episode of With the Chiefs. Today we have a special guest. His name is Chris Gatt. Probably a lot of listeners will already know you, Chris, but Chris is a member of the Delta running community. Recently, we're going to do a bit of a recap. So Chris just recently ran Gold Coast Marathon. So we're going to talk a little bit about the race. Just for context, Chris's PB. So we got a 5K PB of 16:19. We've got a 10K PB of 33:43. We've got a half marathon PB of 77:27, which is due for a bit of an update, Chris. Especially after what we're going to go through. And then we've got a marathon PB of 2 hours 40:29, which is a 4 minute PB, right?
Yeah, about just over 4.5. Yeah.
Yeah, which is very impressive. So, Chris, welcome. How are you going? How are you feeling?
Thank you. Yeah, pretty sore today. A little bit better than yesterday, but still hobbling up and down stairs and any kind of inclines has been pretty rough today. But
yeah,
good. Tired.
Okay. What's your estimate on recovery time? You've got a bit of experience in marathon now, so.
I reckon I can try for a little bit of a run tomorrow. It won't be pretty, but yeah, I'll give 15 or 20 minutes a go and just see how it feels. Otherwise, just walk, but probably 2 or 3 runs this week, and then hopefully back into a session later next week.
Okay, session already. Jeez, that'll be good.
Won't be big, but
yeah,
it'll be something quicker.
Trying to get the legs ticking over.
Yeah.
What do you normally do for what did you do for Chicago post race? How long did it take you to come back?
Well, yeah, I think the way that I ran Chicago kind of helped the recovery a little bit.
Okay.
I did a bit of walking at the end, so I was back up and running a couple of days later. I think I did it an hour 2 days after the marathon. And I think I ran just over 100K that week after the marathon, which turned out to be not the best decision, but yeah, most of the sightseeing. So
yeah, no, that's fair enough. So this is a different story. Obviously, you went probably closer to the limit, which is good. I got some footage of you at 40. I think it was just over 40K. Not really. Did you watch that back?
I watched that back. Yeah, that was. I didn't even know you were there, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a bit of a blur. I think most people that I filmed weren't too thrilled looking into the camera or didn't even notice.
Yeah. I was battling at that point, but it was close.
Yeah, but I remember I filmed at 32K and you gave us a wave, which was good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about the just a training block. So how do you feel you went? And yeah, how did you approach training for this block in particular?
This block I approached a little bit differently to how I normally do. I think for Chicago, I may have overdone it a little bit. Probably did a little bit too much focus on speed and maybe not quite enough mileage. And I think I peaked a little bit too early. So yeah, this block I kind of approached a little bit differently. We've had a few chats over Christmas and things like that, and was probably not enjoying running as much. So just kind of going along with it, making sure I enjoyed it. And then when I started to get into this block, I decided to drop a session. So I went back to two sessions instead of 3, and just focused on building the mileage. So ended up kind of peaking at about 170Ks like 3 weeks out, which was much more than what I did for Chicago.
Yeah.
And it was mainly down to when I ran Chicago, I kind of noticed at about 30K that my legs were just beat up.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I think was just due to maybe a lack of conditioning. So, yeah, changed it. I wasn't really hitting too many sessions that well, I don't think. I was probably a bit disappointed, to be fair, in a lot of the sessions, and almost readjusted the goal about a week out and brought it back to 245. But
yeah, I remember we were chatting about that before
the
race. But I'd seen from an outside view at your training, which I guess in my view looked pretty good, but I guess different because you had, I can't tell, do you think because of the volume itself that played into it much, or?
I think that definitely played a part. I was having some issues kind of just with low iron and things like that. Probably at the start of the block, and so I was kind of trying to balance that and bringing that to a good level, as well as trying to train for a marathon, which was a little bit tricky at the start, but I think towards the end of the block I definitely felt stronger. But yeah, just with the 2 sessions, I wasn't quite sure whether the speed was there, whether I'd be able to hold it for that long. So, but yeah, it was I think I was about the same as fitness-wise as Chicago. I think just a little bit better conditioned, I guess.
Yeah, and sort of how, just in terms of general structure, how did you normally approach a typical week in the block, for example?
Once I got kind of into the mileage side of it, I guess Mondays were just easy, probably around an hour. Tuesdays were like a speed session, usually around kind of 18 to 20Ks worth, including warm up and cool down. So decent mileage there. I was trying to double on Tuesdays. Wednesdays were kind of around 25K, just very, very easy. Probably a little too easy sometimes, but that was just due to kind of fatigue. So Thursdays was sometimes a session, sometimes just an effort. That was the one that I really dropped, I guess, for the week, just to try and recover. Usually would double on the Thursday as well to try and bring that up to like 25 or 30K. Friday the same, would be about 20-25K, just again usually pretty easy. Saturday would be another kind of easy hour or like 70 minutes, and then Sunday would be the bigger long run, which I think most weeks I was doing some sort of speed work in there. Kind of bigger chunky blocks, using a couple of the races around Sydney, the Hoka half and the Sri Chinmoy one that we did. As kind of a little bit of longer pace work, but just generally enjoying those runs a little bit more, and kind of took the pressure off myself, I guess, which might have helped. But that was a general structure for the week. So I was running 6 or 7 days for pretty much 12 weeks.
Right.
Good.
Okay. And how did you build into that 170K week? Was it, how much did you tack on bit by bit? Because I had a look, it looked pretty consistent.
Yeah, I was pretty consistent in the build. I didn't really stay at the same level week after week. I kind of built by 5 or 10Ks each week. And yeah, just kind of managed that fatigue or the extra stress, I guess, by just bringing that third session out. So yeah, I kind of went like 130 was the start of the block at kind of 14 weeks out. And then, just built up 135, 140. There was 1 week that dropped a fair bit, and that was Sydney 10. And then, kind of built back up to 140, 150, 160. Probably went over a little bit too much when I hit the 170. That was maybe more of an ego thing. But it felt okay. So I kind of knew where the body was at that point, and was just managing it. So and then obviously started to dial it back after that.
When you hit sort of 160, 170, I think that was uncharted territory, was it? Like that's more than you've done in the past?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how did
Yeah.
you notice anything different?
Not really. It was more just, for me, it was borderline. There wasn't really much more time in the day than kind of running, eating, sleeping, and working. So not probably not super sustainable, but yeah, got away with it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay. It probably, it might be tricky because obviously if anyone sees Chris's Strava, normally the activities are starting pretty early, like in the fours quite a lot of the time. But is that something, because obviously that would have been the same for previous blocks as well. So it's something you've gotten used to over time, I imagine.
Yeah. I kind of started, I guess, probably around early last year, like March, April-ish. Started doing probably 2 or 3 runs before work, and ended up, just turning it into pretty much every day. Took a while to get used to. Some days I kind of just wanted to sleep in and ended up sleeping in. But yeah, overall, it just managed the stress in the day for me a little bit better. Not having to worry about running for 2 hours after work and try and do sessions after work all the time and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. What were some of so I know you used races as some of the key sessions on Sunday. What kind of other big long runs were you doing? What were you targeting as key sessions?
A couple of the other ones I did, there was one we did out at Rhodes that was supposed to be a 3x9K, but I popped a little bit in the second set on that and kind of pulled the third set back to, I think, about 5 or 6K. So that damaged the confidence a little bit. What else did we do? Testing my memory here.
That's right.
I think the main ones were that Sri Chinmoy half we did. That was basically 21K at kind of 14K at goal Mara pace, I guess, maybe a touch quicker, and then the last 7K was maybe 10 seconds a K quicker than goal Mara pace. So that was probably one session that gave me good confidence. There was another one I did there was a midweek one that was like a 3x5K, but ended up kind of running that at like 3:30s down to 3:20s for each set of 5K. So that one surprised me, but most of the long runs were mainly just time on feet, kind of easy. A few sessions. There was one other one that I did with Pete Brown and Josh Moran that was like a 12K at Mara pace and then 10K at Mara pace. That one went reasonably well. So yeah, there were a few there that gave me a little bit of confidence and a few that didn't. So it was definitely an interesting block.
Yeah, it's always I can definitely relate to the ones where you feel do you feel like, I don't know, is my fitness trending in the wrong direction, or like is this working? But then at the same time you got to think that if you're hitting, probably not in my case at the moment, but in your case, when you're hitting consistent high mileage, that how much is that playing into it as well? But I guess you're the only one that knows it's easy for an outsider looking in, but you're the only one that knows sort of how your body's meant to be feeling. But obviously, that's a day-to-day thing you've got to manage, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where, there were some days where I'd set my alarm for 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, wake up and just go straight back to bed.
Yeah, I don't blame you, mate.
Yeah, there were some days it just didn't happen, but yeah, I think overall it was a good block, and it was good that Gold Coast is obviously one of the bigger ones for a lot of the Sydney people. So there was always someone around to kind of train with, especially on the weekend. So it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. How did you go the week leading into, how long did you taper for? And how did you transition into the race?
So I tapered, what did I have? I did like a 2.5 week taper. 3 weeks out was like the biggest week and the biggest long run session. That was that half marathon. And then, kind of 2.5 weeks was still doing some decent sessions on the Tuesday. Long runs kind of dropped from 38 back to I think 24 2 weeks out, and then I think like 16 or 17 the week before.
Yep.
And then overall mileage, I think I went from 170 down to 120-ish, then down to 80, and then the week of, I think I just ticked over 30k before the actual marathon. So yeah, pretty steep taper.
And how is your mind sort of feeling as well, tapering? I know we had a brief conversation about it, but if you can maybe dig into how that worked for you.
When it first started, I was super anxious. I vocalized it to a couple of people, and I don't know what it was. It might have been a confidence thing, but probably the first week of taper was the worst. I didn't feel like I was ready. You kind of just want to push through that week and keep doing big sessions and keep doing big mileage, and you really have to pull yourself back. And the first week and even the second week a little bit as well. Like the second week, you start to feel a little bit more lethargic. You're still kind of eating the same amount that you normally eat, so your body's just doing all these weird things to you. And I guess like towards the end of that second week, once you kind of get into the last week of taper, and you got 3 or 4 days left to work, and it starts to get exciting then. So the last week was good. It was kind of nervous excitement, which made it better. And the chatter in the group started to pick up at that point, and everyone's kind of getting to that same point where you're just like, we want to do this now. We don't want to have to wait anymore. So but the first 2 weeks were pretty bad. Yeah,
I think I guess once you're used to training at a certain amount. I remember, I don't think it's not so much the Melbourne block I did last year, but the previous one when I was actually hitting, I was hitting higher mileage than I'm used to. I got into a point where I was feeling like really fit, and I didn't actually want the block to end.
Yeah.
But I think that's sort of injury territory as well.
Yeah.
When you're feeling good.
There was a point for me, I think, in that second week of the taper where I almost said to myself, like, I'm just gonna train through this. I'll taper for a couple of days before the marathon.
And to me, I'm pretty sure.
Just whatever happens in the race happens, and then I can just keep training, kind of thing. And I'm glad I didn't make that decision.
Yeah. Well, you'll probably bounce back pretty quickly, but it was such a good race to peak for, because so many people, especially or in our community at least, and in Delta, and obviously the Sydney running community that we're used to, it seems to be such a big race for everyone, and there is the energy that comes along with it as well, because we had, how many people was it, like 20 Delta
I think we ended up with around 20. There was supposed to be a lot more than that, but the flights played a bit of chaos, and some people got sick just before, and not great timing. So I think we lost a few pretty close to the actual race.
And what happened with your flight?
We were very lucky, so quite a few of us were on the same flight on the way up, and ours was delayed, I think, by 40 or 50 minutes, but I think the 2 flights before ours got cancelled. One of the flights after ours got cancelled, and because we flew Virgin, and I think all the Jetstar flights, especially for the morning, got basically cancelled, and everyone got either reshuffled to the Saturday, or a few got shuffled to the Sunday and had to really scramble to get up there. So it was pretty stressful for quite a few people.
Yeah, I was monitoring the chat in the morning. It wasn't I was ready to, and they were saying that the like flights, because so many flights have been cancelled, I was assuming that that was going to be the case, because that would not be similar fears when COVID started, when everyone was trying to head over to Gold Coast.
Some people scrambled up and then pulled the pin the day before or a couple of days before.
All right, so we get to Gold Coast. How was the night before?
it was pretty good. We had a pretty big place booked. There was 6 of us in this kind of big penthouse place. Had a bit of space, so quite a few of the group came around actually for dinner, and it was actually quite relaxing, to be honest. We all had chicken and rice and some potatoes, and there was a bit of talk on Pringles going on, and it was good. There was a bit of nervous chatter between people. Just a good laugh, I think. So it was better than being by yourself and being in your own head a little bit, and just turning over the race plan over and over and over again, and it just made that evening before a little bit more relaxing and enjoyable, which was good.
Yeah, because everyone at least is in the same boat essentially. It can be a grim sleep. Did you sleep?
Nah, so I'm normally pretty bad the night before. I don't know what it is, but the last couple of years, I think every race I've done, my body is wide awake at midnight. I don't know why. No matter what time I go to bed, it just clicks open. I think we went to bed around 8:30, 9 o'clock, which is about normal for me.
Yep.
And then I kind of remember, I guess, being a little bit conscious of what was going on, and you might be in that little dream state sometimes where you think you're awake but you're not. And I just remember opening my eyes and looking at the clock, and it said 12:09. And so I was speaking to Ant at the dinner the night before, and he was telling Ant Wood, he was telling me this, what he does to help him sleep, and count your breaths, count to 10, start again, and try and do that 2 or 3 times and you'll doze off. And
how many times did you do that?
I just remember getting breathe, count 1, breathe, count 2. I'd get to 3 and then be like, okay, just run 3:47s tomorrow. Don't go out too quick.
Yes.
Yep, got to start again. So start the count again. Count 1, count 2. Okay, make sure you get your gels at this point. And I just kept doing that. I did that for an hour.
You can't. It's impossible. It's like when you're trying to tell your brain not to do something, and it just can obviously do the exact thing that. Yeah. So did you? What were you just in and out pretty much the whole night?
So I think I tried that for an hour and then basically gave up, and I was staying with a few other people, and Amy O'Halloran, and I think ended up getting up at about 2 o'clock, and I think heard her pottering around in the kitchen, and I think I got out of bed at 3 o'clock. Just kind of made a coffee, had breakfast, and just you start getting ready at that point. There's not much else to do, so you don't want to wake anyone else up, and but it was okay. Like I'd slept pretty well the few nights before, and for me that's the most important part. That last week, especially when you're not running as much, just make the most of the sleep and really try and get the body ready.
There's not much you can. I always struggle sleeping before a race, mostly before marathon. I don't know. There's a lot more weight that comes with a marathon, just for me at least, and more things to think about as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I reckon there's a bit more energy going around the body too, because you're a bit more rested and not as fatigued as you normally are as well. So your mind and your body are just going together. Yeah.
So, well, for example, in the half, and like if I run a half and or anything other than marathon, kind of like a little bit nervous, but at the same time, not like you just saying I need to run this pace, and because you don't have to think that much about nutrition. You don't have to think like what's going to happen. 30 or 35 Ks or whatever it is, or it's different. I don't know. It's just different. There's
a bit of fear involved.
Because it can go horribly wrong, and you definitely think about that, or I do at least, or pretty much everyone doing the marathon does. And it was a 6:15 start. What time did you get to the start?
We got there, I think, around 5:15, maybe just after. Got off the tram, and everyone was packed like sardines into the tram, and it was fun. Even though the tram's packed, there's still more people trying to get on. But we got there pretty early. Gave ourselves enough time, normal bathroom stops, and little bit of a warm up, which was good. Keith managed to sneak us, a few of us, into the Legends, well, not sneak us, but organise for us to get into the Legends tent.
Good save.
we were official.
Yeah.
And so that took a lot of stress out, not really having to worry about bag drop and things like that. There was drinks there was fruit and some toast and carbs and stuff if you wanted it. And having something like that there was just made it a little bit more relaxing, and dropped the bags off and just headed over into the start line basically, and ended up just running little figure eights around the starting area just to get ready.
Yeah. And what do you normally eat beforehand?
I'm a plain bagel Vegemite. That's my go-to. I do half a bagel for a half and a full bagel for a full.
Okay. Is that what you do on Sundays as well? For training? Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been practicing that pretty much every long run for the whole block.
Okay. So your body's used to it.
Yeah. So I find the Vegemite's good with some salt, which more or less helps with some of the cramps, I guess.
Yeah.
And it tastes like something. And then the bagel obviously for the quick carbs.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of nutrition plan, what was your plan? How did you think about that?
I broke a little bit of a rule on the day, so I've never actually had one of the caffeinated Morton gels, and I decided to throw in 2 of them. So
Why?
I had one pre-race, which I don't normally do, and then so my nutrition plan during the race, I was lucky enough to get into the priority start, so had access to kind of 8 drink stations throughout the course, like every kind of 5.5K. And I didn't really plan to use every single one, but I put drinks and gels pretty much on every station, and just kind of figured if I missed one, at least I knew there was one not too far away.
Yeah.
So I had 2 gels on me at the start. I had a normal Morton gel and a caffeinated one, just kind of in the pocket. And then pretty much the first 5 stations, I had a Morton drink mix and a gel attached to each one, just in a little like pop top bottle. The 30.5K marker, I gave to one of the other Delta guys just as a backup drink for him. And then I had two more drinks at 35 and on the 40K table, which I forgot that I didn't put gels on those because I didn't want to waste Morton gels in case I didn't pick them up. And I was very lucky that there was a bit of support on course, because I ended up missing my first 2 drinks on the 5.5K and the 10K stations.
Oh, geez.
And they had gels attached to them. So basically my plan was to at least pocket the gels off those and, maybe not take them straight away, but at least have them on me. So I missed both of those, and ended up using the 2 that were on me within the first 10K, which was put me into a little bit of a panic. But I think Joe, one of the other guys from Delta, he was on the bike alongside us and gave me another gel just to top me back up, which was ended up tiding me through basically, and ended up using every other gel that I'd placed out on course through the race. So I think I ended up with 7 all up. And picked up pretty much every bottle besides those first 2. So I had, what's that, five bottles, probably around 150 ml each.
Okay. And you, was it just water in the bottles?
Morton drink mix. So.
Oh, okay.
So
you wouldn't just put water, hey? You would probably get some.
Yeah, I figured there was water on the course, so I ended up. I think I took probably 3 or 4 cups off the stations, and ended up just using them to kind of throw over the head and try and keep cool, which helped.
So you had. Is that a lot? Like if you had. This is my weak point, but definitely my weak point.
Yeah, it is a lot. I think I did about the same. Well, I had one less gel in Chicago, because I felt like I didn't really need it at that point. But yeah, it's in the upper range for, I think, most people, to be honest. But it was something that I trained with. I trained for 4 or 5 gels on some of the long runs, so I wasn't doing too much different, and obviously the intensity is a little bit higher. So
no, that's good. That's good, because when I say a lot, I imagine it's better to get a lot down if you're used to it.
Yeah.
Because your body might be in strife. I imagine if you take on too much.
Yeah. So it ends up developing some glycogen issues, and yeah, you can end up going a little bit too far over.
Yeah. So what did you in your longer runs? How would you practice?
Pretty much the same. So I'd have just an elastic band taping a gel to one of the small bottles, and most of the long runs we did were either around like Centennial Park or the Bay. So nice loop courses, 6 or 7 Ks for the Bay, and just over 3.5 for Centennial Park. So I just put them on the back of the car, swing past the car on the way through, and pick up a bottle and just practice one every 6 or 7 Ks, which was the race strategy. So
yep. And the poppers, 150 mils, do you just smash those real quick? I'm trying to learn for myself, so I'm gonna need to improve.
No, I don't. So they're light enough that you can kind of run with it, swap hands a little bit if you need to. But yeah, I'll basically just sip it. I'll take the gel pretty quickly, use it, sip it to wash the gel down a little bit, and then just sip it kind of until the next station, basically. Now drop it just before the next station and pick up the next one.
Okay, so you got it with you for quite a while. Okay, that's good. That makes sense, because you don't. What I've done previously is just have gels on me, and any liquid is just the water. Is just the water on the stage. I barely get it any.
Yeah,
I must barely get it down, because you're running, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm not that coordinated as well, and it's kind of awkward.
It goes all over the face. And
it's awkward. So I guess I just have to get priority,
Yeah, and that's it. Just know someone that knows someone, and then you're fast enough anyway. You'll get it.
I don't know. And okay, so how did your sort of system feel processing all that fine? No, you didn't have any issues with the nutrition at all?
I didn't have too many issues, and I guess without going into too much detail, I felt a little bit at 30K, but ended up pushing that away and just getting it out of the mind, and didn't have any issues, which was good.
Oh, fantastic.
I've been pretty lucky, touch wood, in all of my races, so I hope that continues.
I've had issues before. I've talked about it quite a few times. I've had issues with taking gels that I never had before. It's the worst. That's
where I probably wasn't the smartest in taking. So I had the one caffeinated gel before the actual race, probably 45 minutes or an hour before the start, and then I had another one at, I think, 30K, maybe just after 30K. So I was playing with fire a little bit there, but
you rolled the dice big time. But those Mort ones are good. I haven't had any issues myself, but definitely test them out. But you've had plenty of Morton in the past, so
yeah, I've been fine. I train on, as I said, most of the long runs I was having at least 2, if not more than that. So body gets along with them pretty well.
First time I've had the Morton drink was when I did that 50K pacing. And it's actually really good. I'd much prefer that than if I could just have that, it would be ideal, and not have gels. So I feel like it was much better on my stomach, but
the drink mix is good. It just, I find the taste gets a little bit monotonous, especially towards the end, and you kind of want something that's a little bit stimulating by that point. So I normally mix it up with a little bit of Powerade or something, but decided not to for this one for some reason. So,
and do you ever get issues getting fuel down towards the later stages?
I haven't had too many issues. I think it's, I guess depending on how you're feeling at that point, if you're, if you've already popped, then it's pretty hard to get them down, which, as I said, that's what happened to me in Chicago, and I couldn't even be bothered taking the last couple of gels because it was too late by that point. I think, I'm pretty much of the belief that if you feel like you need a gel at any point, it's too late.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when your legs start to go,
that's it. There's
game over. I
it.
remember Melbourne, the race one, when I was feeling fatigue at not fatigue, but pace was slowing at 21, between 21 to 25 even. I was like, oh God, nutrition's not going to help this.
There's nothing stopping that.
No, you're already on a trajectory that, but that's a different thing. But anyway, that's called going out too quick.
It's gone out too quick. We've all been it.
Okay, so how did the race go in terms of pacing? What was your strategy, and how did that work?
Strategy was pretty straightforward. So basically wanted to go sub 240. So 347s on the dot, 80 minutes through halfway. That was the first target to hit. I think it's, from memory, 18 minutes and 50 something seconds per 5k. So pretty digestible as long as we're around that 19 minute per 5k mark. And we had a really good group. So there was Otto from Run Crew, Tim from Delta, Pete Brown, myself, quite a few other guys. We had probably 15, maybe 20 people in a pack. And once we got going, there was a little bit of chat that, what pace are people going for? And, there's always that little bit of settling in and things like that. And, quite a few people kind of put their hands up and said they were looking for 240. So, we kind of just developed a pack kind of organically, I guess, as the first few couple of Ks ticked over. And so that made it, pretty relaxing. I was having issues with my watch. I went for a shakeout run on the Saturday with Pete, and I made him stand there for about 20 minutes while my watch GPS connected. Just had my arm thrust up in the air, trying to help it a little bit. I'm pretty low.
That always helps.
When on the Sunday morning, actually, when I left my bag drop at the tent, so there was probably 20 minutes to the start, I was like, I'll get the watch going now just in case, and didn't connect at all while I was warming up, standing on the start line for 10 minutes, didn't connect at all. And obviously the gun went, still hadn't connected. And by that point, it's like, whatever, let's just hit the button. So started it, and I think it connected around 5k, which was
that's so
which was good. So the first K on my watch, I think, said 420s, and
oh no,
I knew I wasn't running 420s, but at that point you're like, am I? Because it feels really easy at that point, right? So it's maybe I am running 420s, who knows?
At least you got the pack.
But we had the pack around us, and I trusted Otto and Tim and Pete, and so it was good. We settled in pretty easily, and got a couple of K in, and the bikes. Arthur was on one of the bikes, and one of the other guys, Joe, was on another, and they were just sitting on either side of us. So it was good. There was a bit of chat going on just between us, and it was nice to have people, friendly faces around.
Yeah, what were they sort of doing on the bikes? And
bit of support. Arthur was telling us not to sit on the front of the pack, and just try and sit in behind some other people, which was a fair call. But I kind of found, I think we went through 5k, we were probably 5 seconds down. I think we hit just on 19 minutes. Which at that point, you don't really want to surge, you just kind of trust it. And I think every time it was pretty much myself, Pete, Otto, Tim, kind of, and another guy, Brett Farrago, sitting on the front of the pack, and one or two people would go past the pack and keep going up the road, and there's that little that little bit in your brain that goes, oh, I could go with them. Yeah, no, I've got to sit here. And then, every time we kind of dropped back, I guess, and sat behind someone else, the pace, I think there were a couple of Ks that were like low 350s maybe. So we ended up just, picking it back up and just sat on the front of the pack, which was fine. I remember, we were just chatting away, little bit of banter going on between the guys, which was good. There was a bit of support kind of through that 5, 6, 7K mark, especially going through like Surfers Paradise and stuff, which made it a lot more relaxing.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how did you feel sort of getting through halfway, and how did it progress from there?
It felt pretty good. So I think I still don't really remember. I didn't study the course that well, but I think the turnaround's around 15 or 16K. So there was a bit of a headwind most of that way, which was okay. Felt really comfortable. And I remember turning around and then didn't feel the tailwind at all. But I remember feeling the headwind just before the turnaround, and then we turned around and then there was another headwind, and I was kind of thinking to myself, it doesn't work. There should be at some point, there should be a tailwind here. And I still felt really comfortable. I mean, it was going to end badly, but felt really good in Gold Coast at that point. So that was, I was pretty positive at that point. Good for the head to feel that good at halfway. I think we went through halfway in 79:30 maybe. So we picked up a little bit of pace. I think from about 15K we started bringing it back, because we were probably 20 or 30 seconds down on 240 at the turnaround. So we ended up probably 20 or 30 seconds in front just after halfway. So we definitely picked it up there, and the pack started to split up there. I wasn't really looking back too much, but I think that's where Tim dropped off, and then Otto took off at around 23, maybe 24K, and we never saw him again. So he ran really well. He was comfortable. Did a lot of the work on the front of the pack. So pretty grateful to him.
Yeah, Otto's a great runner. He's
just smooth,
very smooth, and he's very fit. So and did good training. So it wasn't too. I was not surprised to see him surge. And do that.
But I think, as I said, I wasn't paying too much attention to what was going on behind, but I think Pete and I kind of separated ourselves from the front of the pack, and I think 2 or 3 other guys came with us, but we kind of dropped the rest of the pack at that point, around kind of 25K, and then it started to get fun. So coming up, I guess, back through Surfers Paradise, and it was good. Pete and I were massively thankful to having him there. I can't state that enough. We were pretty much side by side for 10K. He's getting cheers from people that he knows. I was getting support from people that I know, and then just I think having 2 Delta singlets there, people were just cheering for Delta, which was great. So we were just trying to enjoy it. Wasn't really much said at that point. You're a little bit focused, but coming back through like 25, 30K, and you start coming back towards the finish line there, and the crowd starts to ramp up a bit, which is really good. As I said, I can't state how much that helps at that point. Just you get that little bit of a boost when you really need it. And then I remember coming pretty much where you go past the finish line on the way back out again, and there's a bridge where we were doing the warm up, and it's, I don't know, probably 5-meter incline over 100 meters, and I remember hitting that point and just going, Oh no. That's it. I think that's at like 32 or 33k, and my breathing went there. Up until that point, I think I had my mouth shut most of the time, and as soon as I hit that hill, I was breathing pretty heavily.
You're right. Okay.
And as soon as that happens, I know, and it's starting to turn.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much just hang on from there, and yeah, ended up running with Pete for another 3 or 4k, and got just before the turnaround, and he started to pull away, and I couldn't stay there. But yeah, he ran on super strongly. Ended up nailing the 240 and getting it by I think 10 or 15, maybe 20 seconds. So yeah, it was good to see.
And you had when I saw you guys at, I think it was 32 where the Macca's is, or close to.
Yeah.
You guys were both, that was like when you were both running literally side by side, still looking real smooth. Which is good to see. And it sort of just it definitely just spoke to you guys were very like disciplined with the strategy, and kind of trusted yourself and didn't like go overboard, which is good. And then you've obviously said after that the wheels start coming off a bit. So
the mind starts to play tricks, but you run with Pete, the guy's just there's something calming about running with him. He's a smooth runner, and he doesn't breathe that much. So.
So he's very smooth, and he put in a really good block as well. Which is
he was super strong.
Yeah, and then I saw you at 40k. I think I mentioned I'm gonna put the videos. I'll put the videos up, and you'll see. But you're still looking like, okay, your face was, you weren't having the best time.
There's some good photos that came out of that point, so they'll turn up later.
Yeah, but still smooth, and like no signs of like your form was still good, and you weren't like hitting. Obviously, you're in pretty deep in terms of pain, but you weren't you hadn't hit the wall, which is probably testament to nutrition and just overall training. So you still had the legs even at that last bit.
Yeah, and I think Arthur, he was on the bike kind of out towards just after that turnaround point, and I think I remember he picked me up at maybe 39k and rode with me for 39 to 40, and that was the kind of point where I think if he wasn't there, I probably would have been going a bit slower. So yeah, having him there was for that part was just a huge boost.
Was he yelling at you?
Was
he like, come on?
He was pretty calm. I think from
just reassuring you that you can do it.
Yeah, he's like, you're there. You've got the time. I knew the time was slipping at that point, but I knew I was on for a PB. So as long as I didn't stop and walk, and nothing too serious happened. So and then obviously you kind of come up a little bit of an incline, turn left, and then you've got a K and a half to go, and it's all flat, and that's where the support is. So you're pretty much home and hose by that point.
Yeah, which is awesome, and it's a nice. You must, because there's a thing that says 250 to go, right? You must be like, yes. Yeah.
So I was running with two other guys at that point, and I think when I'm looking back at a lot of the photos, those two guys were pretty much with us or thereabouts the whole way. So it was kind of good to run with a couple of people that fell off just as badly as I did at the end. And one of the guys pulled away, and I remember trying to catch him, and he looked back at me and he had this smile on his face, and I straight away I knew I wasn't going to catch him. So I just settled in, and it was good. The last 300 meters, it's nice. You turn onto that chute, and you're done.
Yeah. And what was the feeling like at the finish line?
I think I almost cried, to be honest. It's probably the first time in a race where since the first marathon I did, where I felt like that crossing a line. I think I was just I was happy with how it was executed. As I said, I was over the moon that running for so long with Pete, and just running with someone that for so long is really really calming. And then, came across the line, saw Matty Gore there, who absolutely smashed it. Obviously seeing Pete get under 240, which was brilliant. And then just the emotion of everyone else on that finish line. People are collapsing, people are ecstatic, over the moon. There's a good feeling about it when you cross that line in the marathon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, that's a good recap. It's a funny 10-minute interview that I said.
That's right. Talk too much.
How good? No, it's perfect. That's me. Just Anyway, so what's next? What are your plans moving forward?
A bit chaotic for the rest of the year, actually. So I want to fix that half marathon time. That's top of the list.
Oh,
so
mate, that's too easy.
Hoping for New South Wales half in first week of September.
Yep.
And then doing a bit of pacing. So pacing Sydney Mara, pacing hopefully Western Sydney Mara, pacing Melbourne Mara, and then doing Bondi to Manly. So that'll be a good 6 weeks.
Right. That's a lot.
Yeah. And I don't know how I'll go with some of the track stuff at the end of the year, but I'd like to have a crack at 16 minutes if I'm still moving at that point.
Yeah. Because you're doing pacing, are you going to target, is there any other marathon or not really?
Nah, no marathons this year.
Okay.
Melbourne was, potentially on the cards, but just probably a little bit out of reach. And it's kind of 2 weeks before Bondi to Manly, so I didn't really want to have to go and flog myself in a training block and a week or two off after a marathon and then just jump straight into an 80K run. So
there's plenty there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, that one scares the hell out of me. So
yeah, that's going to be a whole separate conversation. That's also uncharted. That's also uncharted territory, I think. But yeah, how did you get roped? How did that? What?
It's a good question, actually. I kind of just said yes without really thinking about it.
Yep.
And then did one of the long runs in the marathon block was the back half of that run, and I remember going up a hill that lasted about 3Ks and thinking, why have I signed up to this? But it should be a little bit of fun, I think. Somewhere local, and it's if you speak to Matty Gore, it's a flat ultra. So
Matt Gore will tell you it's easy.
Yeah. But hey, it worked for him. So
yeah. No, it'll be good. That'll be good. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
And talking about that as well. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, getting to run that with Aurelie. So
oh yeah.
She's getting fit again, which is good.
That's great.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, thank you. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving your recap. Congratulations again on the results. And really appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.